Parents, if you've ever experienced bedtime battles with the kids, I'm going to let you into a little secret. I'm Abby, a mother of 2, and I had these battles myself. Endless excuses, delay tactics, and many tears and tantrums. But I've created a solution. The perfect kids podcast that makes bedtime a dream. It's called Koala Moon, and it's hosted by me, Abby, with over 300 episodes packed with original stories and sleep meditations. Koala Moon makes bedtimes easy and enjoyable. Episodes start out engaging and really rather magical, but as they progress, they gently slow to a calm and relaxing pace to have your little ones out like a light. Since launching in 2022, Koala Moon has helped with over 20 million nights' sleep and received over 6,000 5-star reviews. Win back your evenings. Listen to Koala Moon now, wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey Grownups, guess what? We have 2 amazing Girl Tales events coming up. We're going to be live and in person. First, we are headed to Washington, D.C. for the Girl Tales Flip the Fairy Tale workshop at the Kennedy Center on Saturday, March 8th. We will hear a brand new live Girl Tales episode and then rewrite a fairy tale together, Girl Tales style. Then we're headed to Brooklyn, New York on Sunday, March 23rd, where we are hosting the Girl Tales Arts and Storytelling Workshop. You can expect arts and crafts, we're gonna hear a new Girl Tales story, and we're gonna create a brand new story together. Spots are limited, so grab your tickets ASAP. And if you can't make it to the IRL events, that's okay. We still have the Girl Tales Club, where we meet virtually, and I will read a new Girl Tales story, and your Tailblazers will get the chance to hear the story before anyone else and give us their feedback and help shape the next episode. You can find all of the information, purchase tickets, sign up for Girl Tales Club over at girltalespodcast.com/events. That's girltalespodcast.com/events, or check out the info in the show notes. I can't wait to see you all. Hey Lena, how's it going?
It's going great. I'm so happy to be on Girl Tales for the first time.
I am so happy to have you here. Are you ready to co-host this episode?
Absolutely. Hey Tailblazers, I'm Lena.
And I'm Rebecca Cunningham.
And this is Girl Tales, the kids' podcast of feminist stories for a new generation. Before we get started, we have to do some special shout-outs.
I would like to wish a very happy birthday to 2 kids who have been listening to Girl Tales for a while, Ryan and Ren. Thank you so much for listening for so long, and I hope you have an awesome birthday.
Grownups, Girl Tales is brought to you by families like yours.
If you would like to hear your Tailblazer's name on an upcoming episode, or if they'd like to co-host an episode with me,
head to patreon.com/girltales and donate today. Now, onto our episode. This is Winnie the Bear Goes to the North Pole. Enjoy!
Have you ever been really bored? I mean, like boreder than bored, with nothing to do. Well, when I'm feeling that way, I think of Grandma Nancy, my babysitter, when I was a kid before I lived here in Freshwater. There was one day she was at my apartment watching me and my sisters.
You've got no reason to be bored when you have an imagination,
she told me. But there's nothing to do. We've played all the board games, kicked every ball, and brushed the hair on every doll. There is nothing to do.
Go on an adventure.
Go where? It's too cold outside.
One fine day, Winnie had stumped up to the top of the forest to see if her friend Rebecca Honeycomb was interested in bears at all.
Are you telling a Winnie the Bear story?
I might be. At breakfast that morning, a simple meal of marmalade spread lightly over a honeycomb or 2, she had suddenly thought of a new song. It began like this: "Sing ho for the life of a bear." When she had got as far as this, she scratched her head and thought to herself, that's a very good start for a song. But what about the second line? She tried singing ho 2 or 3 times, but it didn't seem to help. Ho, 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 ho. Ho, ho, ho. Perhaps it would be better if I sang hi for the life of a bear. So she sang it. Sing hi for the life of a bear. But it wasn't. Very well then, I shall sing that first line twice, and perhaps if I sing it very quickly, I shall find myself singing the third and fourth lines before I have time to think of them, and that will be a good song. Now then, sing ho for the life of a bear, sing ho for the life of a bear. I don't much mind if it rains or snows, 'cause I've got a lot of honey on my nice new nose. I don't much care if it snows or thaws, 'cause I've got a lot of honey on my nice clean paws. Sing ho for a bear, sing ho for a bear. In an hour or so honey will be in my care. She was so pleased with this song that she sang it all the way to the top of the forest. Ho for a bear, in an hour or so. And if I go on singing it much longer, it will be time for the little something, and then the last line won't be true. So she turned it into a hum instead. Rebecca Honeycomb was sitting outside her door, putting on her big boots. As soon as she saw the big boots, Winnie knew that an adventure was going to happen, and she brushed the honey off her nose with the back of her paw and spruced herself up as well as she could, so as to look ready for anything. "Good morning, Rebecca Honeycomb," she called out.
Hello, Winnie Bear. I can't get this boot on.
"That's bad."
Do you think you could very kindly lean against me? 'Cause I keep pulling so hard that I fall over backwards.
Winnie sat down, dug her feet into the ground, and pushed hard against Rebecca Honeycomb's back. And Rebecca Honeycomb pushed hard against her and pulled at her boot until she had got it on.
Thank you, Winnie.
And that's that. What do we do next?
We are all going on an expedition,
said Rebecca Honeycomb as she got up and brushed herself. Going on an expedition? I don't think I've ever been on one of those. Where are we going to on this expedition?
Expedition, silly old bear. It's got an X in it.
Oh, I know, but she didn't really.
We are going to the North Pole.
Oh, what is the North Pole?
It's just a thing you go to,
said Rebecca Honeycomb, not quite sure herself. Oh, I see. Are bears any good at discovering it?
Of course they are. Aunt Rabbit and Kanga and all of you. It's an expedition. That's what an expedition means. A long line of everybody. You'd better tell the others to get ready, and we must all bring provisions.
Bring what?
Things to eat.
Oh, I thought you said provisions. I'll go and tell them. And she stomped off. The first person she met was Rabbit. Hello, Rabbit. Is that you?
Let's pretend it isn't and see what happens,
said Rabbit. I've got a message for you.
I'll give it to Rabbit,
said Rabbit, pretending not to be Rabbit. We're all going on an expedition with Rebecca Honeycomb.
What is it when we're on it?
A sort of boat, I think.
Oh, that sort.
Yes, and we're going to find a pole or something. Or was it a mole? Anyhow, we're going to find it.
We are we?
Yes, and we've got to bring things to eat with us, in case we want to eat them. Now I'm going down to Piglet's. Tell Kanga, will you? She left Rabbit and hurried down to Piglet's house. Piglet was sitting on the ground at the door of her house, blowing happily at a dandelion, and wondering whether it would be this year, next year, sometime, or never. She had just discovered that it would be never and was trying to remember what it was, and hoping it wasn't anything nice, when Winnie came up. Oh, Piglet, we're going on an expedition, all of us, with things to eat, to find something.
To find what?
Said Piglet anxiously. Oh, just something. Nothing fierce? Rebecca Honeycomb didn't say anything about fierce. She just said it had an X.
It isn't their necks I mind. It's their teeth. But if Rebecca Honeycomb is coming, I don't mind anything.
In a little while, they were already at the top of the forest, and the expedition started. First came Rebecca Honeycomb and Rabbit, then Piglet and Winnie, then Kanga, with Roo in her pocket, and Owl, then Eeyore, and at the end, in a long line, all Rabbit's friends and relations.
I didn't ask them, they just came. They always do. They can march at the end after Eeyore,
explained Rabbit. What I say is that it's unsettling. I didn't want to come on this expo. What Winnie said. I only came to oblige. But here I am. And if I am the end of the expo, what we're talking about, then let me be the end. But if every time I want to sit down for a little rest, I have to brush away half a dozen of Rabbit's smaller friends and relations first, then this isn't an expo, whatever it is, at all. It's simply a confused noise. That's what I say, said Eeyore.
I see what Eeyore means. If you ask me,
said Owl. I'm not asking anybody. I'm just telling everybody. We can look for the North Pole, or we can play Here We Go Gathering Nuts in May with the end part of an ant's nest. It's all the same to me. There was a shout from the top of the line.
Come on!
Called Rebecca Honeycomb.
Come on!
Come on, called Winnie and Piglet.
Come on,
called Owl.
We're starting. I must go,
said Rabbit. And she hurried off to the front of the exposition with Rebecca Honeycomb. All right, we're going. Only don't blame me, said Eeyore. So off they all went to find the pole. And as they walked, they chattered to each other of this and that, all except Winnie, who was making up a song. This is the first verse, she said to Piglet when she was ready with it.
First verse of what?
My song.
What song?
This one.
Which one?
Well, if you listen, Piglet, you'll hear it.
How do you know I'm not listening?
Winnie couldn't answer that one, so she began to sing. They all went off to find the pole, Owl and Piglet and Rabbit and all. It's a thing you find, as I've been told, by Owl and Piglet and Rabbit and all. Eeyore, Rebecca, Honeycomb and Winnie and Rabbit's relations all went too. And where the pole was, none of them knew. Sing hey for Owl and Rabbit and all.
Hush! We're just coming to a dangerous place,
said Rebecca Honeycomb, turning round to Winnie.
Hush,
said Winnie, turning round quickly to Piglet.
Hush,
said Piglet to Kanga. Hush, said Kanga to Owl, while Roo said to herself,
Hush, 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 hush.
Hush, said Owl to Eeyore.
Hush,
said Eeyore to all Rabbit's friends and relations, and
hush,
hush, hush. Hush,
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 hush, hush, hush,
hush, hush,
hush, hush, hush,
they said hastily to each other all down the line, until it got to the last one of all. And the last and smallest friend and relation was so upset to find that the whole exposition was saying hush to her, that she buried herself head downwards in a crack in the ground, and stayed there for 2 days until the danger was over, and then went home in a great hurry and lived quietly with her aunt ever afterwards. Her name was Alexandra Beetle. They had come to a stream which twisted and tumbled between high rocky banks, and Rebecca Honeycomb saw at once how dangerous it was.
It's just the place for an ambush,
Rebecca Honeycomb explained.
What sort of bush? A gorse bush?
Winnie asked Piglet.
My dear Winnie, don't you know what an ambush is?
Asked Owl.
Owl,
said Piglet, looking at her severely.
Winnie's whisper was a perfectly private whisper, and there was no need.
An ambush is a sort of surprise.
So is a gorse bush sometimes, said Winnie.
An ambush, as I was about to explain to Winnie, is a sort of surprise,
said Piglet.
If people jump out at you suddenly, that's an ambush.
It's an ambush, Winnie, when people jump out at you suddenly.
Winnie, who now knew what an ambush was, said that a gorse bush had sprung at her suddenly one day when she fell off a tree, and she had taken 6 days to get all the prickles out of herself.
We are not talking about gorse bushes.
I am, said Winnie. They were climbing very cautiously up the stream now, going from rock to rock, and after they had gone a little way, they came to a place where the banks widened out at each side, so that on each side of the water there was a level strip of grass on which they could sit down and rest. As soon as she saw this, Rebecca Honeycomb called,
Halt!
and they all sat down and rested.
I think we should eat all of our provisions now, so that we won't have so much to carry,
said Rebecca Honeycomb. Eat all our what? Said Winnie.
All that we've brought,
Said Piglet, getting to work. That's a good idea, said Winnie, and she got to work too.
Have you all got something?
All except me. As usual, said Eeyore. She looked round at them in her melancholy way. I suppose none of you are sitting on a thistle by any chance?
I believe I am.
Ow, said Winnie as she got up and looked behind her.
Yes, I was. I thought so.
Thank you, Winnie. If you're all finished with it. She moved across to Winnie's place and began to eat. It don't do them any good, you know. Sitting on them takes all the life out of them. Remember that another time. All of you. A little consideration. A little thought for others makes all the difference. As soon as she finished her lunch, Rebecca Honeycomb whispered to Rabbit, and Rabbit said,
Yes, yes, of course.
and they walked a little way up the stream together.
I didn't want the others to hear,
Said Rebecca Honeycomb.
Quite so.
Said Rabbit, looking important.
I wondered, Rabbit, I suppose you don't know. What does the North Pole look like?
Well, now you're asking me.
Said Rabbit, stroking her whiskers.
I did know once, only I've sort of forgotten.
It's a funny thing, but I've sort of forgotten too. Although I did know once.
I suppose it's just a pole stuck in the ground?
Sure to be a pole, because it's called a pole. And if it's a pole, well, I should think it would be sticking in the ground, shouldn't you? Because there'd be nowhere else to stick it.
Yes, that's what I thought.
The only thing is, where is it sticking?
They went back to the others. Piglet was lying on her back, sleeping peacefully. Roo was washing her face and paws in the stream, while Kanga explained to everybody proudly that this was the first time she had ever washed her face herself. And Owl was telling Kanga an interesting anecdote full of long words like encyclopedia and rhododendron, to which Kanga wasn't listening. I don't agree with all this washing, this modern, behind-the-ears nonsense. What do you think, Winnie? Eeyore asked. Well, I think, but we shall never know what Winnie thought, for there came a sudden squeak from Roo, a splash, and a loud cry of alarm from Kanga. Oh! Oh no!
Look at me, swimming!
So much for washing,
Roo's fallen in!
cried Rabbit, and she and Rebecca Honeycomb came rushing down to the rescue. Squeaked Roo from the middle of her pool and was hurried down a waterfall into the next pool. Are you all right, Roo dear? Called Kanga.
Look at me, swimming!
And down she went over the next waterfall into another pool. Everybody was doing something to help. Piglet, wide awake suddenly, was jumping up and down and making noises.
Ooh, I say! Ooh, I say! Ooh, I say!
Owl was explaining that in a case of sudden and temporary immersion, the important thing was to keep the head above water. Kanga was jumping along the bank, saying, Are you sure you're all right, Roo dear? To which Roo, from whatever pool she was in at the moment, was answering,
Look at me, swimming!
Eeyore had turned round and hung her tail over the first pool into which Roo fell, and with her back to the accident was grumbling quietly to herself and saying, All this washing. Catch on to my tail, little Roo, and you'll be all right. And Rebecca Honeycomb and Rabbit came hurrying past Eeyore and were calling out to the others in front of them.
Get something across the stream lower down, all of you!
Called Rabbit. But Winnie was getting something. 2 pools below Rue, she was standing with a long pole in her paws, and Kanga came up and took one end of it, and between them they held it across the lower part of the pool. And Rue, still bubbling proudly, drifted up against it and climbed out.
Winnie, did you see me swimming?
Squeaked Rue excitedly, while Kanga scolded her and rubbed her down.
That's called swimming, what I was doing. Rabbit, did you see what I was doing? Swimming. Hello, Piglet. Hey, Piglet, what did you think I was doing? Swimming. Rebecca Honeycomb, did you see me?
But Rebecca Honeycomb wasn't listening. She was looking at Winnie. Winnie looked at the pole in her hands.
Winnie, where did you find that pole?
I just found it. I thought it ought to be useful. I just picked it up.
Winnie, the expedition is over. You have found the North Pole.
Oh! Eeyore was sitting with her tail in the water when they all got back to her. Tell Rue to be quick, somebody. My tail's getting cold. I don't want to mention it, but I just mention it. I don't want to complain, but there it is. My tail's cold.
Here I am,
squeaked Rue. Eeyore took her tail out of the water and swished it from side to side. As I expected, lost all feeling, numbed it. That's what it's done, numbed it. Well, as long as nobody minds, I suppose it's all right.
Poor old Eeyore. I'll dry it for you,
said Rebecca Honeycomb, and she took out her handkerchief and rubbed it up. Thank you, Rebecca Honeycomb. You're the only one who seems to understand about tails. They don't think. That's what's the matter with some of these others. They've no imagination. A tail isn't a tail to them. It's just a little bit extra at the back.
Never mind, Eeyore. Is that better?
It's feeling more like a tail, perhaps. It belongs again, if you know what I mean. Hello, Eeyore, said Winnie, coming up to them with her pole. Hello, Winnie. Thank you for asking, but I shall be able to use it again in a day or two. Use what? What we are talking about. I wasn't talking about anything. My mistake again. I thought you were saying how sorry you were about my tail being all numb, and could you do anything to help? No, that wasn't me, Winnie said. She thought for a little and then suggested, perhaps it was somebody else. Well, thank her for me when you see her. Winnie looked anxiously at Rebecca Honeycomb.
Winnie's found the North Pole. Isn't that lovely?
Said Rebecca Honeycomb. Winnie looked modestly down. Is that it?
Yes.
Is that what we were looking for? Yes. Oh, well, anyhow, it didn't rain. They stuck the pole in the ground, and Rebecca Honeycomb tied a message onto it.
What did the message say?
Well, you wrote it, didn't you? What did it say?
North Pole, found by Winnie. Winnie found it.
Yes, that's right. Then they all went home again. And I think, but I am not quite sure, that Rue had a hot bath and went straight to bed. But Winnie went back to her own house and, feeling very proud of what she had done, had a little something to revive herself.
Honey, right?
Of course. So, what do you think? Are you still bored?
No, I'm not. Hey, do you think there's something that I can find here?
There's always something to be found. You just have to go looking for it.
That was Winnie the Bear Goes to the North Pole.
Written by Rebecca Cunningham, adapted from A. Milne's Winnie the Pooh. Produced by Chenail. Performed by Rebecca Cunningham and Tessa Flannery. Executive produced by Rebecca Cunningham. Thanks so much for hosting, Lena. Grownups, thanks for listening to Girl Tales with your Tailblazers. Before you go, here are some questions to help keep the conversation going with your child. What part of today's story did you enjoy the most, and why? Did you connect with a character in this story? Did you learn something new? How did you feel about this story? Did it remind you of something in your own life? We hope this sparks some fun and meaningful conversations. Girl Tales is a Cordelia Studios production. Grownups, you can get access to ad-free episodes of Girl Tales, as well as a range of other shows for the kids in your life by subscribing to Starglow Plus on Apple Podcasts. If you'd like to hear me narrate the original stories of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, or Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm, head to patreon.com/girltales and join Team Sunnybrook or above. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts.
And if you like the story, share it with a friend.
Oh, and remember, I believe in you.
There's a hill and a road and a path where I know you must go. Through the sun, wind, rain, or snow. But wherever you venture, you can always come home. 'Cause I trust your heart, I trust my heart, and I trust your mind, I trust my mind, and I trust the friends, I trust the friends I know you will find o'er the hill and on the road. So off you go. And remember, I believe in you.
Starglow!
Hey Grownups, have your Tailblazers always wanted to be a part of the story-making process here at Girl Tales? Here is their chance. We are officially launching the Girl Tales Club. As a club member, your Tailblazers will get exclusive invites to live virtual sessions where I will read brand new Girl Tales stories that no one has ever heard before. These will be rough drafts, so to speak, and anyone who is a Girl Tales Club member can provide us with their feedback. It might shape the final draft of the story. Plus, they'll get to meet other Tailblazers. You can also add on the Girl Tales Club starter pack. It's packed with goodies like a vintage book of fairy tales, a notebook, stickers, and more to really kickstart their storytelling journey. Sign your Tailblazer up for the Girl Tales Club for just $7 a month at patreon.com/girltales today. That's patreon.com/girltales.